Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Green Meadow Games sent us a copy of Dawn for review purposes, and that's what we're here to do. I'm going to give you the pros, the cons, as well as the neutrals on the board game Dawn, give you my overall thoughts and a recommendation at the end of the video. If you have any questions about what you see here, let me know down in the comments below, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. Let's get started with our review of Dawn. Before we get into the review portion, let's do a quick overview of Dawn. So in Dawn, you're playing a cooperative game at the start. You're trying to build this town, and you're doing this through putting these different cards face down into piles underneath them. So you'll have a building card that requires a specific amount of chests, and you want to put a certain number of cards that equal that chest value, and if you do, you earn some points. There'll also be some threat cards that you need to get rid of by putting a specific suit of cards. So each card has a suit as well as a chest value. So you're putting these down there, trying to complete them, and then there are these end game piles that serve a similar function, but they're revealed at the end of the game, giving you big amounts of points to hopefully get your team to a certain victory point threshold. Now, based on the player count, there's going to be a little reference card that tells you how many points you need to actually win based on how many good players are playing, but here's the twist. At any point during this experience, you can decide to shift your allegiance. At the start of each round, you're going to be taking one card from your hand and putting it under your character, and based on the chests on that card, if it has a high amount of chests, you are more likely to turn into an evil player at the end of the game. So if you have at least 7 chests under your card at the end of the game, you are now no longer on the cooperative side. You are trying to sabotage the game, and this is going to involve you putting cards face down into areas that are going to mess up everything else. So you're trying to carefully and sneakily put these cards in these piles to sabotage what's going on, to make sure that that good team doesn't reach that victory point threshold, while also staying hidden yourself and getting the team to trust you. So that's Dawn in a nutshell. You're trying to make sure that one of your sides are winning, and if you do decide to be a traitor, that you are committed to it and trying to keep yourself hidden. With that overview of the game out of the way, let's get into the review portion, starting off with the pros. Now, the first pro are the multi-use cards. As mentioned before, each card has a suit as well as a chest value, ranging from -2 all the way up to +3, and then each of the suits does something a little bit different. Now, you have the blue suit here, which can be used to actually look at face-down cards. You have the healing cards here, which are, as you guessed it, going to heal some wounds that you can get, which reduce hand size, and you can heal other players' wounds. You have wild cards, which serve the purpose of any of the other suits and can help out with pretty much anything. And then you have attack cards, where you can spend them to look into pre-existing piles and remove cards from those piles. But my favorite thing about this is not only are you having to pick between the suit and its functionality, or the chest, which is just that raw resource value to build different buildings, but each of these special abilities on these cards can be used positively and negatively depending on if you're on the good team or the bad team. For example, the attack cards, you could say if you are a bad player that you are looking in a pile to get rid of bad cards, but you could just get rid of the good cards by using these attack cards, and no one will be the wiser because the cards are discarded face down, and it's all based on the trust that the team has with you. The wild cards, as mentioned before, have that flexibility, so using them is pretty integral, and you can use it to buy trust. The heal cards here can be used to not only deal with the threats on the board, the chest value, you can use it to heal other people to once again buy trust, you can use it selfishly to heal yourself, or you could put them into face down stacks and just remove them, pretending that there's something else. So you have that ability to kind of play into any of the different facets of the game with the healing. And then lastly, this is my favorite one, is the spy cards. These allow you to look at face down cards. So when the buildings that you're building, as well as the threats that show up, are put out onto the board, you put them face down, and then you're going to be looking at them with the spy cards if you want to, or you can just deal with them or build them. So there's reference cards that give you a specific amount of odds. You know what's potentially underneath those specific types of threat or building cards, but it's up to you if you trust that person. Maybe I play a spy card and I'm on the good team and I say, hey, this card is a big point value, this is the one we need to build. Is everybody going to trust me that I was actually telling correct information? Or if you were a bad person, you could just straight up lie about what you saw, or maybe you choose not to use your spy cards to make sure that people don't know what's going on. And one thing I really love is some of the bad events don't do anything when they're revealed. And you could say, if you're a bad person, to be like, hey, this card is awful, we need to get rid of this, it's going to destroy some of our buildings, and then everybody's wasting their cards on this. And there's a lot of choice when it comes to how to use these cards, and there's uses for the positive and the negative side. I love that. This moves me to my next pro, and that's that every action is valuable and important. When you're playing on your turn, you're going to be using every single card to do something, and that's great because you're not going to feel like anything is wasted. And even the simple action of healing a wound from your hand and getting a bigger hand size is going to feel awesome because it's going to give you more options as the game goes, or helping out another person. These also tie into some of the scoring conditions, so it feels like every action you're doing is super important, whether it be on the positive or the negative side. My next pro here has to do with the choice to be a traitor, and this is an excellent concept. There's no hidden roles assigned at the beginning of the game. It's total player agency as to what path you pursue. You can look at your opening hand, and based on what you see, you can choose a path, or you can shift throughout the game. But this is not a choice to take lightly, which adds to that decision space of, ooh, this is going to be a big thing if I do this. The win condition of the game has you reaching a certain point threshold, and in a 5-player game, you're trying to get 150 points. But for each player that decides to be not on the good team, they reduce the entire victory point goal by 30 points. So if you decide to be a traitor, you're going to have to make sure that you're dealing at least 31 points of damage to the team. So once you decide and you commit, you are in it now. You have to make sure that you are making these plays to have an impact on the board. Agency, but at a huge, steep cost, and I love that concept here because you can decide to switch between the two, and there are even points in the game every single start of the round where you can decide to shift either back onto the good team if you think they're doing well, or you can shift back onto the bad team and make sure that the sabotage continues. I love this concept and how it can fluctuate based on the cards that you're getting and the choices that you make. Moving to my next pro, this game features thoughtful lying, and that's a big deal when it comes to these traitor games where it's not just something mindless. You have to think actively all the time about what you're doing and where you're placing your information. So one of the main ways that you're going to be contributing and sabotaging is placing cards down into these face down piles for the threat as well as the building cards, and you'll shuffle them up at the end of the round. But if you say that something is in one of those piles and all of a sudden you reveal the pile and everybody knows you put that card in and you said that you put a yellow in there's no yellow, then you are immediately suspicious because it doesn't matter what everybody else put in that pile. There's no yellow in there, so you are lying. This gives the good team ways that they can actually deduce what's going on based on the suits, the chest values, based on the actions of the player, but it also gives the evil players room to actually make super strong bluffs, saying that they're a good person by committing specific icons and symbols, while also being able to just throw away things they don't want to support other portions of the town with. It's about getting buy-in from the other team, but also making sure that you're not catching yourself in a lie, because there are ways for the good team to deduce that. I love that in these deduction style games, particularly when there can be up to 5 traitors if everybody decides to sabotage the town. And then another thing I enjoy about this is the obfuscation in general. These face down piles are a great way to give some hidden information as well as long-term information. I like the way that there are these end game buildings where everything in that pile is secret until the very end of the game, but you can use those attack cards to start pilfering piles if you want to glean some information early. It's a trade-off between doing the now, building those buildings that are going to disappear at the end of the round by contributing those face down cards, or starting to look and starting to prepare for the end of the game with these large victory point buildings. You can decide as an evil player how you are going to put different cards into these different piles, but as a good player, you're also deciding on whether you want to approach these current problems or worry about the end of the game and starting to get that information on who to trust and who not to trust. Putting a card into any pile is risky for any player, and it's always available for that good team to suss things out. My next pro has to do with the evolving odds of the game. So as you start playing, you're going to be revealing building cards, getting rid of threats resolving on your town, and this is going to change your odds, and I love this concept. There's a great reference card that tells you all of the information in the game. It's going to tell you which buildings have which types of point values. These 8 chest buildings will have maybe a 12, a 6, and a 4. And based on the things you're revealing, it's going to give you more information as you play and allow you to conserve some of your spy actions. But you're also going to, if you want to get rid of threats, have to have some resolve in order to get some of that knowledge in the future. So there's a push on pull on both the good and the bad things that are happening to the town. I also love the odds when it comes to these end game buildings. You'll have these large stacks of cards that will be accumulating as you play, but if you're able to discard one of those attack cards early, you have a pretty good chance of seeing most of the cards. But the more cards that show up in a pile, the more chance you have to see the same cards over and over again. But if there's a lot of negative cards in there, you may have a chance to actually see those and get rid of them. It's a weird push and pull because yes, you want information, but you also don't want to be wasting actions and getting rid of something actively. It's a cool choice that's going to progress as the game goes, and you'll see those stacks rise and rise. So I love the odds in this one. My next pro here is purely mechanical, and this is the Storehouse Mechanism. So at the start of each round, as mentioned, you're going to be putting a card from your hand face down under your storehouse. End of the game, if you have 7 or more chests down there, you're going to be on the bad team. At 6 or less, you're on the good team trying to get that victory point value. But one thing I didn't mention is every single round during your turn, you can swap cards in your hand with cards in your storehouse. This means it serves as a second hand, something that you can pull from. You can save resources in from round to round because you are trying to make sure you're using your cards as efficiently as possible. And this is a great way to make sure that you're getting the most bang for each of your cards, adding to that agency, that choice, and that planning from round to round. Now, the cool twist about this, though, is you can also use it negatively or positively if you're trying to shift from side to side. Maybe you're storing a bunch of chests here and you're just at that 6 mark because you want to make sure that you can leap onto that evil team if you need to based on how the game goes. But then if you do that, you're not being as strong with the chests that you're actually storing. So are you actually going to be balancing this, or do you want to go full in and commit? And the other thing about this is if you are storing these cards to help out the team, that it's pretty suspicious when you are constantly diving into your pile and everyone's thinking like, why are they going into their pile? This is clearly not right. And of course, you're going to try to tell everybody the truth and say, yeah, I was getting my red card that I put in there. You can't reveal your cards, unfortunately, unless you use their effects, but you may or may not be able to buy some trust based on your actions. And I love this second bay of resources that you can pull from. An excellent mechanism. This is the Storehouse Mechanism. And my last positive here is the artwork for the game. Angela Rizza is the illustrator here, and she's done a great job with bringing some life to this town out in the middle of the countryside. Her humans look like humans, but have this artistic twist to them. I love her buildings, and then the backgrounds of each card are not wasted. You have these lovely color that pops, these intricate symbols and patterns that you can see, and I love the threat cards, especially with your bandits and thieves and plague, and just how you feel like this world is inhabited, and I think they do a great job capturing what's happening here. So excellent job, Angela. I love the artwork in Dawn. So those were all of my pros. Let's go ahead and move on to the neutrals. My first neutral has to do with the player count, and I just prefer this game at higher player count. So it's got a 2-player variant, as well as a 3-player mode, 4-player, all the way up to 5-player. And my favorite way that I've played this so far is the 4 and 5-player modes. I think that just having more cards in the mix, more voices talking, more potential for obfuscation and putting different things into piles, that's more exciting to me, and I didn't really feel that as much at that 3-player. Now, the 3-player is still solid. We all knew what was going on. I had an idea, but it felt like there was a little less of the uncertainty that I liked in the 4 and 5-player. This may just be my preference here, but I did prefer this at the 4 and 5-player, and then the 3-player wasn't as impressed by, so I didn't even try the 2-player. So I'm going to continue playing this one at those higher player counts. Now we move on to the cons. Now, first con here has to do with the box size. Now, the box size for me is too small. It's a pretty box. I love that the artwork is everywhere on it. It's got this little pull tab that you can open and close. Love this style. However, it's too small to accommodate sleeved cards. And with one of these hidden roll negotiation style games, I need to make sure that these cards are not getting damaged, so people, when they put something down, their card is not going to be revealed. No one's going to be able to see your cards and be able to track that information that well. So I do make sure that I sleeve, especially games like this, but we do sleeve everything in the side game library. So unfortunately, I can't use this box when it comes to storing the game. We've actually put it into an expansion box for the B-movie expansion for Roll Camera because it ends up fitting, and it's still a pretty tight fit with all those sleeves there with everything. So that is where we're storing the box. I just wish the box was a little bit larger. We did receive a copy of the deluxe edition for review purposes, and even the deluxe edition of the box did not have room for sleeved cards. So something to be aware of if you're a card sleever. And our last point here, the last con, has to do with the variability of the game, and specifically the building and threat cards. Now, as mentioned before, when you use that spy action, you get to look at the back of the cards. The references clearly lay out, hey, this is what these buildings and these threats are going to have. So I understand why they are the way they are, so that you can use those spy cards with the paired reference card and be able to see what's going on. But for me, I want some more variance when it comes to the cards here, the challenges that I'll be facing. The buildings have those set point ratios. They give you a certain amount of points for building them, but there's no other special abilities and effects or anything like that, and no additional sets to change things up. And that's the same thing with the barbarians and the bandits, as well as these plagues here. When you reveal one of them, they're generally going to be destroying buildings, adding wounds, things like that, and it's going to change based on the one that you reveal, but those odds are always going to be the same, so you sort of know what to expect from game to game, and that's what I felt on those last couple of plays. Now, this is definitely countered by the players at the table, and that's going to be the biggest thing that changes your game, and so I think that the game system is strong enough to get through this, having all those cards being pretty identical from game to game. And also, every time you play, if you're playing with less than 5, you're going to only reveal a certain amount of cards, so some are removed at the start of each game, so you're not going to see them, and then the order is going to be different, but I do feel that bit of sameness when it comes to these different types of cards. Now, light spoilers for the game, but there are some of these special envelopes that have specific conditions that you must do to unlock them, and when you do, they will unlock new building cards, but the backs of those cards are different than all of the buildings that are in the core game, so when you see it, you pretty much know what it's going to be, unfortunately. So it doesn't really add to that mystery or the necessity of using the spy action to look at abilities. You already know what that does, and so everybody can play on that card when they actually see it. So what I'd like to see for this game, and I like this game a lot, I'm just going to tell you right now, but I would love to see more sets of different building and different threat cards, as well as different reference cards, so you can sort of plug and play the different sets that you're playing with, so that way you have this variability, but you're not losing the reference as well as the accessibility and the functionality of the spy actions. That's what I would like to see for this, to push it up the ratings just a little bit more, because I think this game is almost perfect, and I would love to see more variability that's going to draw you in and give you that combination of the players plus the cards, so you have the pairing of that, and that's going to give you even more unique situations and settings and change up how you're approaching your gameplay from game to game of Dawn. So that is my second con here. I want more variable building cards and threat cards for the experience, and not just these single ones that have that unique background that you can get from unlocking in those special envelopes here. So those are my pros, my neutrals, and my cons clearly laid out. Let's take a look at my final thoughts as well as my final rating. For Dawn, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 on the Board Game Geek rating scale. This is a very good game. I like to play it. I'll probably suggest it, and I'm never turning down a game of Dawn. For my final thoughts, I think it's an excellent and unique game that gives players so many choices that matter. It's also easy to understand, but has so much weight to each action, what you're doing, what you're saying, that it's going to keep you on your toes. I want more variability in the form of components, but it's the players and how they're using all of the systems presented to them that make this experience interesting and is going to keep me coming back for more. A quick overview on all the pros, cons, and neutrals. The pros, the multi-use cards, every action is viable and important. You have a choice there to be a traitor and all the things that come from that. The thoughtful line, the obfuscation that's available, the odds that fluctuate as the game goes, as well as the Storehouse Mechanism, and then of course the wonderful artwork. The neutrals being that preference at the 4 and 5 player counts, and then lastly the cons. I just need a bigger box so that I can fit those sleeved cards but retain that artwork for the game. And then lastly, I just want more variability for my experience to change up things with those components from game to game. And that's our review for Dawn. I want to give a big thank you to Taylor Hayward and Green Meadow Games for sending us a copy of Dawn for review purposes. And I want to be very clear with you, we don't receive any kickback for the games that we review here on this channel. These are my honest opinions on this game and where I think it fits in our library. If you're looking to get a copy of Dawn for your library, you can take a look at the Green Meadow Games' website here. They have a copy of the standard edition as well as the deluxe edition, which comes with some additional components, a wooden first player marker if you do want to pay that extra here, and you can go support the publisher here and get a copy yourself. I do think it's worth the purchase, and I'm so happy that we have it in our library here. But thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.